Today my title is How to Differentiate Between the True God and the False God. There is only one God in the universe, but the gods other religions have been introducing are much different from this God. Which religion is introducing the true God? Can we know which religion has the true God? Yes. We have eyes to read and see, ears to hear and listen, brains to compare, hearts to evaluate and discover the truth, and a conscience to stand for the truth no matter the cost. So we have the capacity to search for the true God, find Him and live with Him. Anyone can read or hear about the characteristic of gods in different religions' books. We can compare them with each other, and then we are able to distinguish the true God from false gods. What are the criteria for discovering the true God? There are philosophical criteria, doctrinal criteria, social, political, economic, and moral criteria. Let's see what the philosophical criteria are. The first philosophical criterion is that God must be personal. God must be personal in order to be able to build personal relationship with people and help them. An impersonal God cannot build any personal relationship with a person, save him or guide him. Such a God is therefore helpless and hopeless. For example, God in Islam is impersonal. Since Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, was unable to see God, he pronounced God as absolutely invisible and a non-revealing God. After his death, Muslim philosophers based their philosophy on Muhammad's experience and defined God as impersonal, inaccessible, and unknowable. If a God is absolutely invisible, he cannot then reveal his thoughts, words, or acts. This also means that he has no thought to reveal his plan, no word to speak about his plan, and no working ability to put his plan into action. In other words, he cannot speak because only a person speaks, not a non-person. He also cannot create because creation needs words. As we say, God said and it became. Since the God in Islam cannot speak, the creation cannot be attributed to him. So the impersonal nature of the God in Islam did not allow him to reveal himself to Muhammad or to have a personal relationship with him. Since he cannot have a personal relationship with anyone, he will be unable to help and save, because helping or saving requires a revelation and personal relationship. Many of you Muslims are praying every day and asking your God to put you on the right path. How can he put you on the right path since he is not able to reveal himself to guide and protect you? Guidance and protection can only be defined if there is a personal relationship, whereas the Quran says that Allah does not reveal himself and does not relate to anyone personally. So the first and fundamental criterion for the true God is that he must reveal himself to save people from Satan and sin. If your God does not reveal himself, then he is not the true God. The second philosophical criterion for the truthfulness of God is that his presence must be everywhere and functional. God is able to be with us in a practical way. Since both God and us have personal characteristics, we are also able to sense God's presence personally if he is with and in us. We have to have legitimate reason if we proclaim God's presence within us. Many Muslims dismiss the philosophy of the Quran about God and proclaim that God is with them. I have heard so many times that Muslims claim God is in their blood, he is closer to them than their jugular vein. Is God really with Muslims? Can this claim be proven by reason? No. Let me describe why not. If God is with you, this means that God is with you with all his assurance, kindness, and love. Since he is the good, kind, merciful, and compassionate God, he therefore never desires to leave you uncertain about any part of your life, but gives you 100% confidence about your future. If you say that he does not give you confidence, or in other words, he does not guide you perfectly, then he is not the true God. You are saying that he is with you, the light for your path, and guides you perfectly. Let me ask you another very significant spiritual question. Are you saved and certain that you will go to heaven or paradise? Your response, your prophet's response, and the Quran's response are all no. This means that your God hasn't given you any confidence about your future. How can the God of assurance be with you, but you are still unsure? This means that the God of assurance, or the true God, is not with you. Otherwise, you would have assurance. In other words, your religion is unable to take you to the true God. So the presence of God can be proved in us only we are saved by God here on earth and have the confidence of going to heaven or paradise. The third philosophical criterion for the truthfulness of God is that he must be knowable. The true God is the kind of God who you will be able to know personally, and the one you can follow based on your own personal experience with him. You do not follow a person whom you do not know. God is the same. He doesn't want you to follow him blindly or through a middle person. He wants you to be with him through your own personal experience with him. Now let me give you some doctrinal criteria for discovering the true God. The first doctrinal criterion is that God must be absolutely righteous. This means that an absolutely righteous God cannot have bad and immoral deeds or make them legitimate, because his nature is perfectly good and far from evil. Therefore, If you see in the book of your God that He is the creator of sin and evil, or has legitimized them in some circumstances, that God cannot be the true God. You need to evaluate the words and deeds of your God if you want to know whether your belief is heavenly or not. The second doctrinal criterion is that God must be absolutely a just God. This means that God cannot say or do unjust things. For example, God cannot give His prophet or the leaders more rights than others because He is absolutely just. He cannot give men more rights than women or ask men to beat their wives. He cannot give some of His followers more rights than others. He cannot promote sectarianism and encourage people to ignore the rights of others. If you see your God has legitimized such unjust things, He cannot be the true and just God. The third doctrinal criterion is that God must be absolutely a holy God. This means that God cannot sin, create or inspire sin, or legitimize sin under any circumstances. Can a holy God corrupt others and make them sinners? Not at all. Therefore, if you see that your God has corrupted others, made them sinners, He cannot be holy. Such a God cannot be a good role model for people. The fourth doctrinal criterion is that God must be a loving and kind God. This means that God respects and loves people and draws their attention to Himself through wisdom, kindness, and peaceful means. Since He Himself desired to create us, He Himself must also provide the kindest and loveliest means of unity for people. Like a parent to his children, He must approach you with the loveliest and most educational manner so that you can run to Him with zeal and unite with Him. God should not be like a cruel person who ignores your freedom of choice and deals with you unjustly. If your God does not have such a love and kindness, He is not the true God. And His religion also cannot create love, kindness, and peace among people. Now is the time for me to give you some social, political, economic, and moral criteria for discovering the true God. Concerning the social criteria, the true God is absolutely far from every kind of discrimination concerning gender, race, nationality, belief, position, or any other thing that could separate people. Your God cannot be the true God if He gives more rights to men than women, to masters than slaves, to His followers than others. Concerning the political criteria, the true God establishes and promotes a modest kind of leadership instead of dictatorship. In the eyes of the true God, the greatest among people is the most humble among all and a servant to all. Your God cannot be the true God if He gives a dictatorial role to His prophet or to any of his followers. Concerning economic criteria, the true God believes that people, both followers and others, deserve to receive equal compensation for the same time and work. The true God does not limit the rights, ignore, nor issue heavy taxes on non-followers. Our last criterion for distinguish the true God from the false God is the moral criterion. What are these moral criteria? The true God never legitimizes lying, deceiving, or any kind of immorality, no matter what the circumstances may be. The true God is a holy God, and His holiness is always against sin, whether it is committed by a follower or a non-follower. Your God cannot be the true God if He allows or encourages His followers to deceive others or lie to them. There are many false gods and beliefs in the world. You won't be able to understand whether you are following the true God or a false God unless you learn who the true God is. These criteria help me to find the true God and to have amazing experience with my Creator and Savior. My prayer is that they become useful in your life too, so that you can reside in the eternal joy of God.